This particular recording will focus solely on creating a design and the pieces that will go together for that purpose. Up to this point, you've been engaging in many different mini assignments, and all those mini assignments are building towards the final project, which is creating your own design. So I'm going to explain a little bit about how these pieces fit together, and then I will also go over some of the different components or parts of the final design creation process, which will include the components that you've made previously. Assignment 3 is an assignment in which you provided some of the background information on your particular area. So you'll notice that when you create your own design, you'll have a title and you'll have a little description of the area. And then you'll also provide some background. So assignment number 4 should help you when you get to that background portion. And all of these different components that I'm talking about are explained in detail and written instructions in the course site as well. In addition to that, you completed assignment number 4 that also builds towards the final design to help you in the synthesis section, and that'll be clear when you create your design and look at the pieces that I described. They follow the CASA model. So now that you've built your Google Doc or Sheets assignments towards understanding the content, asynchronous, synchronous, and assessment portions of the CASA model, the completion of assignments should also help you when you get to the design creation phase. And then finally, your first couple of assignments, assignments 1B and 2, were the building of many components. You will tie your components to the final design to help support the use and implementation of your design. So you should have at least one theory, one strategy, and one tool that go together with your design to help support that overall picture. So you can see that all the different pieces that we've done over the course of this class. Assignments 1B, 2, 3, and 4 will fit together in the creation of your final project. So let's take a look at an example. This is John Kevin. He is one of the co-creators of this MOOC. So this is an example of his components and design. So you can also go to your profile to easily find your components and the later designs when you create them. Here's a screenshot showing just the bottom portion of the design. You can see that when you tie your components to your design, they show up on the bottom, and then you don't have to duplicate all the information that you put in those components. The reason for doing those assignments was to support our ideas of what kind of tools, theories, or strategies that might support the kinds of design that we create in e-learning. You'll notice that you might have multiple components beyond just the basic 3 of one tool, one theory, and one strategy. In other words, you might be using multiple tools, multiple theories, or even possibly multiple strategies in your design. It will just depend on your own implementation, but at the very minimum, you should have at least one component of each tied to your final design. So let's talk a little bit more about that final design. Here I talked about the assignments. You'll also notice that there'll be some other sections, there'll be attachments right here, where you can include supplementary materials such as tasks or lesson plans that you've designed. Again, those will be optional. There's also a section for references right here. Sorry, it's covering it. That support your design creation, whether that's the support of the tools, support of the theory, support of the strategy. Those will be within the components, but then you may add additional references should you so desire, and that's pretty much just copy and paste for that section. So let's talk a little bit more about how to get to designs and to create them, and then I'll go over the design creation field, and that'll hopefully make it a little clearer on what to do. You can always get to the designs by clicking on the design button right here. That's located in our course website. All the designs will be listed. I just did a screenshot of just a couple just so you can see what's on the screen. But actually, the add a new design button will be at the very bottom. So you have to scroll down through all designs to get to the bottom to add a new design. That's one way of adding a design, but if you want to avoid having to scroll all the way down to the design page, another quick way of creating your own design at this time is just by clicking on your own username right here. And then you'll see that there's an easy way to add both components and designs just by clicking on that plus button, and voila, you'll get to your design creation field. So to review, there are 2 ways to get to design to add a new design. You can get to your own design quickly by also clicking on your username And then coming down to the My Components to view your own components, or to My Designs to view your own design. To create new ones, click on the New Design button here in the design page or in your username area. So those are 2 ways you can add a new design. So let's talk about the Add a New Design field. You can see some of this is self-evident, while some of it bears a little further explanation. For titling your design, remember to provide as a descriptive title as possible. The titles will be searchable later, so be descriptive, but also keep in mind the balance between descriptive information and not making the title too long. You can see some of the examples and decide for yourself what kind of title you want, but definitely want to be descriptive. You'll also notice that those designs have a short overview about the design as well. Think of it as a brief summary or abstract for a research article with the main points to help people quickly understand your design. Both the title and design description are very important, as they are the items that will most widely viewed by people browsing the designs. They'll go to that design page and see your icon and your title quickly, and so perhaps look at your short overview to decide, oh, this is something that's my area that's of interest, so I would look further into this particular design. So while they're important, they should also be brief. Keep in mind, there's the design synthesis section right here. So this is explained in detail in the written instructions. So I'm not going to go over it now because you're just in the beginning stage, but this will match the different categories of CASA. You'll put the background here that you did for assignment number 4, and then you'll put the content, asynchronous, synchronous, and assessment approaches that you might have included from the CASA model. And that can easily be put here so you can see it in bold, italicized. You can play with the formatting as much as you want. There's an HTML, so you can embed HTML should you so desire. This also allows you to really make things look nice. You can do formatting here. You can add images so that it looks nice, looks the way you want it to look. So it's okay to experiment a little in this design first. It'll be exploration, so you can always go back and change and edit these at any time. I talked about adding attachments like lesson plans or supplemental materials. We also looked at adding references, so those are right here. Adding references right here. One important thing to remember is that the allowed comments and tracks are checked here, right here, it's covering right now. And they should be checked by default. This is for the peer review process. You don't have to worry about this now. When we engage in peer review, we'll be able to look at each other's designs and then quickly comment on them, just like in a discussion. And then those comments will be tied to the designs to help people further understand how the designs are perceived and perhaps even modify them. On the right-hand side here, we have a few section categories commands as well. There's the publish one. This is important. You can save the draft and you can always come back to the drafts later. So if you feel that it's not ready for prime time, you don't necessarily have to publish your designs yet, but you do make sure that you save your drafts often. Especially if you're adding things. It's like clicking save on Word. You don't want to get into a situation where you did all that work and you didn't save or lose some of them. It may also be a good idea to keep copies or drafts of your work in a separate Google or Word doc as a backup. When you're ready to publish it, click on the Publish button, and that is when it shows up on the design page that you can see and click on from the course website. So as long as you don't click on the Publish button, and you can always change that later. If you clicked on the Publish and then you decide, oh gee, I don't want to publish, so you can go back and you can modify that. But you can use the save draft until you're ready to publish it. And all the different information that you put together for design will show up. There'll be categories to categorize them. There's a lot of existing categories for you to choose from. However, you can add your own category if nothing fits. We just ask that you use your best judgment in adding new categories. They're helpful for people to find things later, so as much as possible, we try to have general categories. And then finally, I talked about connecting your components. Right here, connecting your components. So that's just done here. So you go to the connected components. Let's click on one, so you can click on this button. And then finally, I talked about connecting your components, so you can do that here. There's quite a few components that just showed up that can be created over time in the course, but remember that you can always go back to your My Components. Look at the titles. The quickest way to get your own components is to find the titles in the search field to connect directly to your own components easily. And then there's a featured image right here. This is really important. That's the image that you will see that will show up in the main image in that design page. That's what people will see when they go to the design page, and together with the title and the short description, those are things that are going to be showcasing your design, and then people can decide if they want to go and take a look at the specific pieces of that design and the synthesis and attachments and all of that additional information. So that is just a short synopsis. If you have any questions, as usual, you can email your instructor, or you can email your TA. The best way to learn, obviously, is by doing as we say. Try out the designs and let us know if you have any questions, and thank you for your attention to this recording. Have a great week. Mahalo!